This is a quick one. This is going to be a quick one. It was just sparked off of something that I was reading earlier today. What I have started to do is I have so many different ideas that come to me throughout a day. When I get one, I just have a stuff on my notes on my phone. Either that or I'll leave myself a voice note. And not only will I write down the idea, but I will write down what I saw that gave me the idea and give myself a little blurb about what in particular I wanted to say connected to that idea, because so many thoughts come in and out of my head in a day now. And I realize that if I don't capture it the first time, as soon as I think about it, I'm gonna forget about it. So not only, like I said, I write down what the thought is, what gave me that thought, and I have to give myself as much details as possible at that time of what I was thinking about in relation to that. So this one is about procrastination. How you doing, Vicky? This one is about procrastination. Sorry, this is not about procrastination. This is not about procrastination. This is about perfectionism. Sorry about that. This is about perfectionism. I think I was thinking of two things at once, and that's why procrastination is something that came out. Um, that is somewhat related to this topic, but this topic is actually about perfectionism. Now, some people out there can relate to being a perfectionist. And for me, the way that perfectionism has manifested itself in my life is by sometimes never feeling satisfied with something that I put out there or something that I'm doing, a project, um, feeling stress towards putting things out there that people can see and judge and say this is good or this is trash or everything in between. Sometimes spending so much time creating something, recreating it, and recreating it again because it just has to be just right. But the specific thing that I wanted to talk about was with myself and music, and how the perfectionism has related to music. When I was pretty young, my parents, and particularly my mom, realized that I have a talent for music. I was good at music. I used to sing. I started off singing. I started playing the piano at a very young age. And then I started to play the recorder, which some people consider an instrument, some don't. I do, instrument. And the saxophone. That was what I was playing at that time in as a kid and in elementary school. And once my mom realized I had this talent, she started to put me in competitions. And I have a folder in my house of all these different certificates and stuff saying that I won or finished in the top 3 in these music competitions, whether it was saxophone or whether it was piano. I was really good. But I remember those settings were really stressful to me, so much so that I feel like they took away my enjoyment of those things. Because I remember, if you guys can imagine, like the way that you see the American Idol stage or all these talent competitions that they do nowadays, obviously not as big a deal as those things. But on a local, small level, you go into a room, all the kids that are performing their instruments are on one side of the room. The parents are on the other side of the room. And then there's the adjudicators. And you are all dressed up. You either have your instrument, if it's something that is portable, or like when it was the piano, they have the piano there. You walk up and it's pin drop silence in the room. And you can hear, because you wear your dress shoes, you can hear the sound of your heels hitting the ground. It's so silent in the room. You walk up there by yourself and you're like, My name is Mark, and I'm going to play such and such a piece. And then I remember looking out at all the facial expressions, looking at the kids, looking at their parents, and looking at the adjudicators, and just feeling so many nerves. And then you get into that piece, and it's not a matter of, are you good at that piece? Are you talented enough to play the piece? It's about, how well can you perform that piece when there's all these eyes under you, on your face, and listening, and there's other people in the audience, and there's judges. There's literally judges, and then there's other people who are not musicians, and they're judging you as well. So I remember times when I would practice and I would be on point. I would be so on point. And then I would get into the actual competition and then make some simple, easy mistake that I'm like, how in the world did I make that mistake? Because the pressure got to me and ruined my concentration a little bit. Thank you, Vicky. So that was my framework. The reason I'm giving that background story is because that was my framework for getting into instruments. Got into the instruments and was immediately thrown into the competitions. So fast forward, I didn't do music for a very long time. In my teenage years, I kind of gave it up. I picked it up sometime in my late 20s. And I still kind of had that same framework of competition in my head. I won't say that I necessarily had family or parents that said, don't come home if you don't finish in first, but I will definitely say I have a musical family, so not placing or not getting first was not going to be highly celebrated. Like, wow, you finished third, or you got the participation award, you did so well for trying. Nah, they were going to tell me good job, but they weren't going to be like, great job, you did so well, unless I finished at the top. So I had that framework in my mind. So as an adult, I don't do competitions anymore. I never want to again. I don't have that desire when it comes to music. I just do music for my own personal enjoyment. I started performing again maybe 6, 7 years ago now. And when I started getting back in front of people, I started to feel those same fears that I had as a child, which is just getting up on a stage, looking out in the audience, wondering what people are thinking and who's going to be judging me, what happens if I make a mistake, etc., etc. And now we're in an era where things get recorded. You guys see that I post some of my performances now, and somebody's going to be recording. If I go in there and I don't record it personally, somebody in the audience is going to be like, hey, I liked that or whatever, or they might just record it just because they see me standing up there with a saxophone and they're like, let's see what this guy has. So I had a thing where if I watched that performance back, the mistake, if I made a mistake, would be the only thing that I hear. It could be a great performance. I could be up there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And if there was one mistake in one song, I would go home. I would dwell on that mistake. Like, how could I have made that mistake? I've practiced this song so many times. I know this song so well. You only get one chance to get up there and do that. And I missed that note, or I played the wrong note here. Now, to get to how I broke myself out of that. It was through help somewhat, because I would have some of these conversations with different people who were at some of my performances, and they were like, you did so great. How do you feel about your performance? And I would be like, oh, it was all right. Kind of the same kind of reactions that I would get from my family when I would do the competitions and I wouldn't finish in first place. Like, I think I was all right, because I have an ear for music. So I'm specifically, my ears hear whether it sounds good or whether it sounds bad. And Unfortunately, it amplifies for myself when I've made a mistake. So the way how I flipped the perfectionism and specifically having these extremely high expectations for myself of it has to be this exact way, otherwise I'm happy, is that I started to tune out the music in a way. So if I was either even hired to do a performance, or even if I'm volunteering or doing an open mic, even if it's not a paid thing, I'm like, somebody wanted me to be here. So that's a victory. That somebody heard my music and was like, I would like you to play here. They're not listening. Also, to realize that they're not necessarily listening expecting the same things out of me of what I'm expecting of myself. It's not a competition that I'm standing up there for. It's to help with the ambiance of the room, and it's to make people happy. So something I started to do was to pay more attention to the audience, and something that I did specifically, which people probably didn't realize was intentional. I used to just get to whatever it was that I was getting to and play and go. So I started to actually get there much earlier than my performance and tap in with the crowd. I started to talk to a lot of different people that I saw were in the audience, connect with them, exchange stories, which served a few purposes. It kind of calmed my nerves a little bit, and it also gave me somewhat of a connection with them to aid the fact that they were kind of rooting for me in the performance, and had some level of personal connection to me there. So I would get up there and I would talk a little bit before, instead of just playing. I would talk a little bit about my background and what song I was going to play, why I was moved to play that particular song. I would play the song, and while I was playing, instead of thinking about the notes, I would look out to see the smiles and enjoyment on people's faces, because that is the main reason why I was there. I said to myself, you've already done the practice, you've already put in the work. Whatever it's going to be on this day is whatever it's going to be. As long as you got up there, you completed the piece beginning to end, you succeeded. That should be celebrated, and you should be happy about that. So I stopped actually analyzing the performance that day. I started to celebrate myself for having completed the performance that day. And then when I got to the video, instead of saying, oh shoot, I made this mistake, I said, oh, okay, I see that I was a little out of tune here, or I said I missed this note here. This is actually an opportunity for me to sharpen this up, because there will be other performances. There will be other chances to perfect my craft. I'm happy with what I did this time, and I plan to improve for next time. And that simple little mind trick for me flipped things around for me and brought back some of the enjoyment that was lost over my childhood years through always having to compete. So that would be my advice to y'all who have the same issue with perfectionism. Learn to celebrate exactly what you did and your talents and your skills, no matter what they are. If something did not turn out exactly the way that you liked it to turn out, or it was a dud, or you messed up, you made a mistake, that's okay. We have other opportunities in life, and consider that as a chance and an opportunity for you to do better next time. Don't compete with others. Compete with yourself, because sometimes we are so hard on ourselves, thinking about the different types of judgments that we're going to get from other people, and we might even not be getting all the judgments that we're thinking of. Yes, of course, there's always going to be one or two people that's just hating on you for no reason. But the majority of the time, I don't think that people are just rooting for you to fail or mess up or make a mistake. There's a few, but there's not many. The majority are just watching with intent to see what you're going to do. And you know best what you're capable of. So if you didn't do your best, here's an opportunity to sit back and think of the reasons why. Not to drown in thinking about the reasons why, but give yourself an honest assessment. Was this the best I could do? Why did this mistake happen? Why was this not conveyed in the way that I intended? How could I make this better? And then make your planning for next time. But when you get into that situation, it does not benefit you to think so much about the potential for yourself to make a mistake that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And the other thing is, be prepared to do things, make mistakes, but keep moving forward and keep doing them. Don't sit there afraid to do anything or try anything because of the potential you could make or your fear of being judged, because the chances are the people who are doing the most judging are doing nothing for themselves personally and spending all their time watching you. And you're going to keep leveling up as you just put things out there and do your thing. You might make that mistake, but you'll have done 10 things before they did one. So this was just my little message about perfectionism and how I have overcome that for myself. And I hope that this has benefited somebody. Please make sure, if you have not yet, like the channel, subscribe, hit the notification bell to get notified of when I drop some more great content. And also, memberships are active, so if you want some exclusive behind the scenes videos, access to different things, that is available as well. Shout out to the replay crew, and I will talk to y'all soon.